What's going on, everyone? In this video, we'll be talking about the 11 biggest financial mistakes high income earners make and how to avoid them. Individually, we're all on this financial journey, and the more that we can learn from each other, the less we need to learn from having to make our own mistakes. So let's jump right into it. The first financial mistake that high income earners make is overspending. Overspending is one of those things that could really creep up on you, especially if you're a high income earner. The reason is because there's this false sense of security that high income will always be there to support your lifestyle. That's not always true, as we know. So there's almost this natural expectation that the income will always be there when we all know things could change at the drop of a dime. So I think the main takeaway here is that regardless of what your income levels are currently, you should never lose sight of your spending habits because that can easily spiral out of control. To avoid overspending, living within your means and creating a budget is important. A budget can help identify areas to reduce spending and save more money. So no matter what your income levels are, you should always be conscious of how much you're actually spending. And if you're making more money, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend more money. So you definitely want to keep that in check, especially as you're getting promotions throughout your career. Number 2 is ignoring debt. This one is actually kind of interesting because it's counterintuitive. Not only is there a sense that that debt could be paid off at any time because they have the money to do so, they can actually borrow more money because of their higher earning potential and because of their good credit. Of course, it gets dicey when you lose track of how much is being borrowed across all accumulated loan totals from credit cards, mortgages, car loans, and etc. And the mismanagement of all these loans is when things start to get out of hand and you find yourself deeper into a financial hole.
I'm broke. I'm broker than broke.
And if you find yourself recognizing that you're in a lot of credit card debt, I actually think it's not a bad idea to consider getting a debt consolidation loan so that you can pay less than interest and it's a lot easier to manage, which of course doesn't solve the problem of being in deep debt, but at least you're not dealing with large debt amounts and high interest rates because debt consolidation loans have a lower interest rate. And on top of that, instead of having to pay off all these small debt balances, you have one to worry about. Plus, it's a lot easier to manage because everything is consolidated into one loan compared to having small credit card balances across different credit cards. And I think the holy grail is once you get a good handle of how you manage your debt, you can start using that money that you would have otherwise spent on wasting money on credit cards and interest rates, and instead use that money and invest it into assets that will eventually appreciate in value, such as homes and businesses. Number 3 is not saving enough. You would think that high earners save a lot of money because they make a lot of money, but according to CNBC, the number of six-figure earners who live paycheck to paycheck is 49%, which is a 7% jump from last year, which was 42%. So that means, yes, even high earners, a lot of them are living paycheck to paycheck. So if you're making a lot of money, it's really easy to get into this comfort zone of thinking that you're going to keep making that kind of money and sustain it for the long run. But that's not always the case, especially if you're making the very mistakes that are covered in this video. So it's important to save enough money to meet your long-term financial goals, no matter how much you make. And once your income level starts to slow down for whatever reason, that's when it becomes a bigger risk for financial insecurity. To curb that as much as possible, you want to increase the amount of money that you actually save, especially if you're not spending money on things that you don't need and you have excess amount of cash that you can put to other places. To make this process easier, I recommend setting up automated savings via automatic transfers to a savings or a retirement account so that money is way out of your hands before you can mess it up and lose it. Knowing how to invest is crucial to building wealth over time, and if you are making a lot of money, then you should be investing enough to meet long-term financial goals. You should know how to diversify your investments to minimize risk and maximize returns. For example, you may invest all of your money into a single stock, which could lead to significant losses if the stock price falls. Mistake number 4 is not investing enough. Knowing how to invest is crucial to building wealth over time. If you are making a lot of money, then you should be investing enough to meet long-term financial goals. You should also know how to diversify your investments to minimize risk and maximize returns. For example, you may invest all of your money into a single stock, which could lead to significant losses if the stock price falls. So instead, investing in a range of assets such as stock index funds, bonds, and real estate, etc., definitely work with professional investment advisors to create a diversified investment portfolio that matches well with your risk tolerance and investment strategy to meet your needs. Mistake number 5 is not having a budget. When I talk about budget, I'm not saying that you should literally have your budget written down on paper and follow it to a T. If that works for you, then go for it. But what I think is more important is more broadly being aware of where your money is going towards each and every month. I use budget tracking apps like mint.com, but I also keep it simple and make it a habit to look at my credit card statements a few times a week. And what I like to do is log into my bank account every so often and just spot check to see if everything looks normal and that there isn't any surprises. That way I can keep track of my income and expenses and make adjustments as needed. Having an app like Mint is helpful because it categorizes spending and identifies areas where you can cut back. The main takeaway from this advice is to just be more conscious of where your money is going each and every month. That way you aren't paying for phantom subscription services or services that you don't even use anymore. So the simple act of budgeting seems basic and it feels like it's almost rudimentary, but it's super powerful because if you can find any leaks in your budget where you're spending money on things that you no longer use anymore, that's literally like putting money back into your pockets. Mistake number 6 is not having an emergency fund. Even high income earners can face unexpected expenses such as medical bills or job loss. Having an emergency fund is crucial to weathering financial storms and avoiding debt. Because if you are not financially ready for emergency events, that's a surefire way to actually get you into more debt because you'll need funds to stay afloat, right? For instance, if you're a high income earner, but all of a sudden you lost your job and through the stroke of bad luck, got hit with an unexpected medical bill that you can't afford at that specific moment in time, that will lead you to debt and hardship. And I recommend having an emergency fund to have at least 6 months of living expenses covered. That way, when unexpected events happen, you're much better positioned for that. Number 7 mistake is not properly planning for retirement. If you're a high income earner, you have money coming in, so it always feels like you're going to be supported. But it's important to plan and save for retirement because no matter how secure your situation is today, things could change quickly, and they should always consider factors like inflation, increasing healthcare costs when planning for retirement. It's a good idea to save at least 12 to 15% of your income for retirement and invest in retirement accounts such as 401ks and IRAs. Some people speak out against 401ks and I have no idea why. The tax benefits alone of putting money into a 401k easily justify contributing to it. And there are a lot of companies out there that are providing a 401k match. And if you work at said company, man, you'd be silly not to take advantage of that program because it's basically free money that you're putting into your pockets every single time you contribute to your 401k. So you're getting paid to do what's probably in your best interest when it comes to retirement and planning for it. Number 8 is not diversifying investments. As I mentioned earlier, diversifying investments is crucial to minimizing risk and maximizing returns. I talk about this all the time. When it comes to diversifying your investments, what I like to talk about is actually researching your asset classes and understanding how they move against each other. And what I mean by that is it's important to understand how certain events could impact the prices of assets. So when interest rates go up, for instance, prices come down. When the economy is booming, tech stocks typically go up. During recessionary periods, people like to invest in bonds. So by having a diversified investment portfolio that really takes into account different movements in the economy and how that can impact your assets, you want to account for a range of different economic states so that you're not overly exposed to one specific investment or investment type. And if you don't care to learn about investments or to have anything to do with it, I still think it's a good idea to at least learn the basics. That way you can speak the language a little bit more and feel more confident in choosing a financial advisor. Mistake number 9 is not keeping it simple. One common mistake that high income earners make is not keeping their financial education simple. That means they get caught up in complex financial jargon, investment strategies that they just don't understand. They watch CNBC and hear about the latest and greatest company acquisitions and feel like they need to be making big moves too. And the reality is if you don't know what you're doing and you're making these big bets, it can easily set you back for years. To avoid this mistake, it's important to keep your financial education simple. The good news is we cover a lot of important financial topics on this channel, so you certainly want to understand the basics of personal finance, such as budgeting, saving, and investing. And once you have a strong footing on the fundamentals, that's when you can start exploring more complex strategies, and you really don't want to be skipping any steps because you'd be doing yourself a disservice. Number 10 is failing to prioritize financial goals. People who make a lot of money have many financial goals, such as buying a home, saving for their children's education, or investing in a business. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. However, it's really important to highlight the importance of prioritizing these goals and focus on the most important ones first. This will help you avoid spreading yourself and your resources too thin and achieve the most important financial objectives first in the order of importance to you. High earners should consider creating a financial plan that outlines their goals and the steps that they need to take in order to achieve them. Everyone's priorities are different, so it's important to be intentional about what your goals are and then work towards achieving them. Lastly, mistake number 11 is not properly protecting their assets. If you're making a lot of money, chances are you probably have more assets to protect, such as homes and businesses. However, not doing your homework on adequate insurance coverage based on your unique needs to protect these assets in the case of disaster or lawsuits can be financially fatal. This also includes creating an estate plan to protect assets from being repoed and not kept with your family. And there you have it, the 11 biggest financial mistakes high income earners make and how to avoid them. I spoke from the perspective of high earners in this video, but the advice is applicable to anyone regardless of income level. Keep watching because in the next video, we'll be talking about the 7 ways to increase your credit score quickly. I'll see you there.